All right, everybody. Welcome to the AFC Northcast, your centralized location for the best of information on the NFL's biggest, baddest, and hardest hitting division. That's right. You're joined here today by myself, the biggest Browns fan on the fucking planet. So much so that his beard is orange and his wife is brown. That's goddamn right, guys.
Woo!
I said it.
Wow.
Our residential Ravens fan, Joey, who loves the Ravens so much, he made damn fucking sure that his wife's first two initials were B and R. That's goddamn right. And Chad, a man who loves the Steelers so much, he's willing to admit it in public. That's right, everybody. AFC Northcast.
That's
Shouting
right.
From the rooftops, boys.
That's
Shouting
right.
it from the rooftops.
Welcome. So today on the podcast, we're going to do our preview of the AFC North Bowl. That's right, at least the first edition of the AFC North Bowl. And so we have the Ravens and the Browns playing each other, and we have the Steelers and the Bengals playing each other. It's quite the week for the AFC North. We're coming at you a little bit later than normal. Usually we do it on Thursdays, but today's Fridays. But no worries, you'll be able to listen to this before Sunday. So fret not, young ones, fret not. It's all good stuff. So, yeah. So with that, everybody, what y'all drinking? What you guys got with you tonight on this glorious Friday night?
Oh, you know, just the champagne of beers.
That's right. Miller High Life.
This
The
sexy
champagne.
beast. The 16er,
16.
not the 12.
Nice. What's up, Chad? What you got?
Bourbon barrel aged Imperial Maple Stout from the Burlington
Oh.
Beer Company. We're not messing around. We need a win. We need the big stuff. It's called Seances and Sacrifice because I'll do voodoo to get a win at this point, baby.
Ooh.
That sounds absolutely phenomenal.
That does. And
Yep.
me and
Crap,
my
not crap, Joey.
tall boy Browns cup, just the typical old-fashioned, keep it clean, bourbon and water. That's all you need, guys. That's all you need. All right.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to roll straight into the games for this episode. And we're going to start off talking about the Bengals and the Steelers. So, Chad, state your case. Why do you believe that the Steelers are going to dominate the Bengals? And mind you, before we left the last podcast, before we cut, I let everybody know that I picked the Bengals. So you better be prepared.
I'm going to quote Mike Tomlin.
The only way you could do it.
Because the past is the past. There were some positive things to glean from the game. That's the last game. But again, we're not looking for positive things to glean. We're acknowledging that winning is our business and we got to handle business. So that's the tempo. That's the mood of the locker room right now.
Handling
And I will
business.
tell you, X's and O's, why the Steelers can beat the Bengals. I'm going to be straight with you guys, Steeler Nation. The Bengals, schematically, actually should create problems for the Steelers defense. All the things that they're trying to do are the things that the Steelers are bad at handling. They're putting people in motion pre-snap to figure out coverages. And then once they figure out coverages, they're throwing to the open space and then hypothetically audibling into quality run plays when they have that advantage. And they've had some good passing games, and the Steelers secondary doesn't communicate. So this is an issue. Fortunately, they're the Bungles. And as Joey pointed out, they're capable of going entire halves without running any play action, which has sucked in the Steelers' best linebacker, who's a rookie, and their worst linebacker, who's worse than the rookie. That's you, Mark Barron. Step it up, bro. They're going to screw it up. They're going to screw it up because they're in Pittsburgh and they're not ready for the limelight and they're just not a good team yet. So they're going to do a couple nice things. They're probably going to get over the top of somebody. But their offensive line is a joke. And therefore, they will fail because Stephon Tuitt and TJ Watt are going to blow the whole shit up. Likewise, on offense, the Steelers appear not. But guess what? They do have one, boys. The Bengals like to run 5 defensive linemen because they have 11. For the record, 5 of those 11 did not practice on Thursday, so they're not in great shape. And if you can get through the defensive line, no one else on the team tackles until you get to Jesse Bates. And he's got to cover center field. So that's like 20 free yards, guys. So all we got to do is all the stuff the Steelers love to do. End arounds, wide receiver screens, screens to the running back, screen to the tight ends if we have any this week. Yes, we did trade a 5th-round pick for Nick Vannett because we don't have any tight ends anymore. But you know what? He can catch a shovel pass. He's fine. You can do it, buddy. You can do it. And just moving people side to side and then being unafraid to throw that deep ball. And Mason Rudolph is unafraid to throw the deep ball. He showed it last week, even in a tough game, a tough career opener. He got in there and he threw some nice long passes. And he got it done, and that's why I think the Steelers can and will climb the stairs to just above the basement in the AFC North this week.
Well, here's my 2 cents on it. So the big thing about the Bengals as far as defense goes is their defensive line, right? And one of the big knocks that we've had on them is that they cannot stop the run because they're too aggressive against the offensive line trying to get to the quarterback. Well, that's not going to be a problem because James Conner can't fucking run the ball anyways, so it doesn't really matter. All they got to worry about is getting to getting to Mason Rudolph, right? That's all they got to worry about. James Conner, he has proved thus far that even with the best offensive line, or one of the best offensive lines in football, he has not been able to produce. He has not been able to come off of what he had that first half of the season last year, and the Steelers are missing him because of it. Well, they're missing the old him, at least, and missing another notable Steelers running back that, decided not to come back. As far as the deep ball, just no. I mean, I don't know what to say. Mason Rudolph, so what, he's not afraid to throw like 50% incompletions, something like that? Is that what he's not afraid of? I don't know. I don't really see too much upside on Mason Rudolph, the rookie quarterback, just lighting them up over the top. I just don't see it, man. Don't see it. What else?
Pile it on, man.
Justin kind of cooled my take off a little bit. But I feel like, obviously, now that Ben is out, it drastically changes the Steelers season. But I think it's possible that even coming into the season, the Steelers were kind of living on their reputation a little bit. And maybe we overestimated them. Now with Mason Rudolph, man, I don't know. I think I trust Andy Dalton and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon and Zach Taylor a little more than I trust Mason Rudolph to be able to utilize the weapons that he has, which are right on par with what the Bengals have, especially without A.J. Green. But, man, it's a tough sell to me to have Mason Rudolph win an AFC North, his first AFC North football game on Monday night, his second start of his career. Like,
never forget how this division goes when they play against each other. Like, you have teams that just shine when they play their division rivals, at least in the AFC North. And it can really bring the best out in the Bengals. As far as the pass rush to Andy Dalton, look, Andy Dalton has lived his entire career under pressure. In fact, I once heard that his middle name was David Bowie. That's how much pressure he's lived under his entire career. All right? Andy Dalton is going to be able to handle it. He's got John Ross, which so far, with the exception of last game, has had a pretty upside on his season. In fact, I'm pretty sure he's caught more balls in the first 2 games than he did the last 2 years. But whatever. He's still got Tyler Boyd. He's still got Joe Mixon if Joe Mixon decides to, get some screens and some outsides. We'll see. Yeah, man. I think that...
What did John Ross do last week, Justin?
I said with the exception of last week against who did they play last week?
The Bills. That's a good defense.
Yeah, that's right. They've been playing pretty good so far this year. Decent defense, But
For the listeners that don't know, last week Justin Ross dropped his first target, and then he caught his second one and fumbled it away in a turnover, and then he disappeared like a ghost.
But that's my take on the Bengals. I think that the power of the offense is more than the Steelers' defense is prepared for, because the Steelers' defense has been so far this season, which has not been too different from the other seasons. And as far as the Steelers' offense, I don't know. I don't believe in Mason Rudolph, and I think that the defense is going to eat. Now, look, really, I'm just overwhelmingly excited that the Steelers are 0-3, and I just can't even help myself to the thought of the Steelers going 0-4. So this is where I'm living right now, everybody. The Steelers 0-4, and you should all be living there with me, because who else would love to see the Steelers go 0-4? That's right. So pick the Bengals in your pick'em this week. I'm telling you, pick them.
We can do a big back and forth, but we're going to do at least a little back and forth, because I have to respond to a couple of your assaults on my character by assaulting the quality of my team. A, you talked about James Conner, and you spoke ill, sir. You spoke ill. James Conner is a solid running back, and we had discussed we might go into more detail on this later in the year when we talk about the state of our teams. But James Conner, while he is probably slightly below average in basically all categories for stats for running backs, there's a stat called success rate. It means if you get half the yards you need on first down, that would be normally 5, but after a penalty, 7.5 or 10, depending on the penalty, 60% of the yards you need to go on second down, or converting a first down on third and fourth. They call that a success. The percentage of times that Conner succeeds is right about 50, which means, and you've watched it this year, the Steelers often have manageable third downs. They just haven't converted them. So the defense looks bad because they can't sustain drives, and the offense looks like it's bad, and the running game looks like it's bad because they're also not sustaining drives. They're scoring on long plays. But Conner is breaking tackles. He's gaining positive yards. He's just not accumulating massive statistics because they haven't sustained drives yet. Okay? The Bengals defense is prone to penalties. The Bengals defense is prone to tiring out. That's when nobody's hurt. And the Steelers are getting better. You are ignorant if you don't think Mason Rudolph is going to get better as this year goes along. We just watched his worst game of the year. We just watched it. And he kept him in the game against what may well be a playoff team in the NFC. Secondly, do you guys know who Stevie Nelson is?
So
wasn't he in Fleetwood Mac or something?
He could be. He's talented like that. He's got so many talents, I don't even know them all. I think he was also on the Great British Bake Off season 4. Anyway, Stevie Nelson is the starting cornerback, starting outside on the other side from Joe Hayden for the Steelers. He's doing pretty well. You know how we know that? Because no one's freaking talking about him. No one talks about him ever, any week, which means they are afraid to throw at him, and they're not catching a lot of balls over his head. So this is a team that, even though it appears is sloppy on defense, isn't giving up a ton of deep balls ever since they're finished with the Patriots. And they're getting it gelled together. They have a new star player in Minkah Fitzpatrick. They have a linebacker who has looked a little bit suspect in coverage against the tight ends, but he's looked really good in coverage against wide receivers and running backs in Devin Bush. So if the Bengals don't execute their schemes really well, this defense will make them look really bad, I promise.
It's a good thing the Bengals don't have any above-average tight ends.
They don't use them well. Eifert's playing fine, and he's getting hardly any. They're mixing and matching, but poorly, in my opinion. They only really use Eifert in the red zone.
Yeah, Eifert, He's healthy so far, and like it's weird because the other seasons that we've seen Eifert, he's been healthy throughout the season and had high production throughout the season. But like this season so far, in the first 3 games, he's been healthy but has not had that like match that production, which has been kind of weird. I don't know. It's really strange to see. But I mean, hopefully he'll stay healthy. If you're a Bengals fan, you're hoping that. So, but I'm calling on everyone, all of our listeners, everyone in the AFC North that does not wear black and gold, to vote for the Bengals in the pick'em. All right, let's will this into existence. Let's will an 0-4 into existence, guys. Let's make it happen. But
I think I think this game, like my final thoughts on the game, these teams are very, very similar to each other. On defense, you have fantastic defensive lines. Both offenses have been kind of questionable. Both from a play calling standpoint, Randy Fichtner has come under attack just as much as Zach Taylor this year, as far as play calling is concerned. And so both offenses have had their challenges, whether it's getting Mixon involved or finding a wide receiver other than Juju. And now losing Ben. So I think this is going to be a very hotly contested football game. I think these teams are a lot more similar than people are giving, I guess, probably the Bengals credit for, because everybody just kind of assumes, I think, on a national media standpoint that the Steelers are kind of going to walk all over the Browns or the Bengals, but
right.
A Freudian slip.
I agree with that. That is not the way people should think about this. This should be a competitive game,
right.
Unfortunately. Last couple notes, I will say. Sad to say, but our guy, Darius Phillips, is on IR. He shone bright like a star in the sky, and then, better to burn out than to fade away. So we'll see you in 8 weeks, Darius. I actually don't know the injury. I didn't get the moment to look it up, but I do know that he was on IR. So little bit skimpy at third DB for the Bengals. Likewise, looks like Vince Williams is not going to play for the Steelers. He's a middle linebacker, and that's part of the reason you saw a little bit of struggling in the second half for the Steelers defense last week, is that their 2 middle linebackers, what's their face, Devin Bush and Mark Barron, played every single snap last week. And when you're the Steelers defense, that means well over 70, which for people that don't count NFL plays, you want to be closer to 60. So when you're well over 70, you're, to put it plainly, pretty fucking tired.
Out there running. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the big thing. The Steelers need to win the snap count for once this week, and if they don't, you might get what you want, Justin. Also, tune into this game on Monday night. It's the only one on.
That's true.
The only show in town. I think it's higher stakes for Pittsburgh just because the expectations have been higher. That's dampened, obviously, I think, because Mason Rudolph is now the quarterback of the football team. But 0-4, do you think I don't know if you even want to entertain the thought, if 0-4 happens, do you think there's any type of coaching shakeup as far as coordinators go?
Probably not. Well, the Steelers are in pretty decent position defensively to cycle their defensive backs coach, I believe his name is Austin Terry, into the defensive coordinator role if that were to happen, and if they felt like the defense wasn't called well. I think that most people agree that the defense was called reasonably last week. As for their offense, Randy Fichtner is their offensive coordinator, and they don't really have a guy behind him to move up, and they're not a team that would do that without having someone already in place that kind of knows their system and could make the rational adjustments, not just implementing a whole new thing. So I would say
Tomlin can take over play calling or anything silly like that.
You're basically looking at the guy who's going to do the offense for the year. Defensively, changes are possible. I will say this, since we're talking about the future and the state of the team. The Steelers have a bye week in week 7. If you were listening, I projected the Steelers to have a 10-6 record, and at the bye week, I projected them to be 3-3. We have 3. We play at home versus the Bengals. That's called get it right game. We have home versus the Ravens. That's a gut check. And then we have away versus the Chargers. If you can beat the Ravens at home, you already showed you can play competitively on the West Coast. You can go beat a Chargers team that loves to lose games on accident. I wrote down on top of the schedule themes for every team. For the Steelers, it was to survive the early part of the schedule. Things aren't going as planned. They're also not totally out of whack at this point. You can get it right against a bad Bengals team. And if they beat the Ravens, I promise you, there's going to be a lot of separate tunes being sung after this. Okay? A lot of separate tunes. A lot of, wow, Mason's really good. Wow, totally misjudged James Conner. Wow, Minka, what a brilliant signing since you were going to draft a free safety anyway.
We won't get into the Mason Rudolph versus Don Martindale conversation this week, but you can start preparing now if you'd like.
That's because the game was over before it started, Joey.
You're right.
So catch that game Monday night, 8:15. That is the Monday Night Football game. They picked it right when they were making the schedules.
Say it with me, boys. Sevenberg.
We'll put up a poll, see what everybody thinks, and we will revisit that poll on Tuesday when we do our podcast to see just how right everyone was for picking.
Chad, how do you feel about Sixborough? Is that appropriation, cultural appropriation by the massholes? Have you heard that before?
No.
Sixburg and the Pats have Sixborough instead of Foxborough.
Oh.
What? So their stadium is where their territory is?
Just the stadium.
If I was as well liked by the rest of the country as the Patriots, I would get everybody behind my castle walls too. Pittsburgh
prefer
in the open.
New Sixland.
Yeah, it sounds as cool as everyone thinks it is. So actually, yes.
Nice. Awesome. All right, any other thoughts on the Bengals and the Steelers?
Just to be clear, I'm picking the Steelers to win, and you two are both picking the Bengals. Did I catch that correctly?
I'm picking the Bengals, yes.
I picked the Steelers.
So that's what you did.
But I'm on the fence. So I think this game is really, really close. I don't think there's a clear.
You did what you did.
Yeah.
You know where your heart is. I get it.
It's in Pittsburgh. That's the tiebreaker for me.
Sure.
There you go. Right now, the pick distribution is 80% to the Steelers, 20% to the Bengals. Do you know what the Vegas lines are or anything, Joey?
Pittsburgh's favored by 3.5.
Didn't you tell me? I don't know much about gambling. Didn't you tell me that's like just typical home field advantage?
Yeah, some of that has kind of dampened in the last few years. I don't think Vegas regards a home field advantage in most stadiums to be as strong as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pittsburgh's probably one of the more hostile environments that you'll see in the AFC with the Towels and Led Zeppelin or whatever the hell they like to play, Renegade and shit like that. So 3 points is the standard home field advantage, which if that holds true, that means Vegas thinks that the Steelers are a half point better than the Bengals.
Gotcha. Well, speaking of pick distribution, the next team marquee matchup that we're going to talk about is going to be the Cleveland Browns versus the former Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens. Right now, the distribution is 9% to Cleveland and 91% to Baltimore, at least on Yahoo Fantasy. And I could not tell you how absolutely and utterly wrong you all are. Utterly incorrect. All right. So I'm going to let you start this one off, Joey, because I don't think you're ready for what I've got coming for you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off by saying that maybe Rex Ryan is right.
Oof. Oof. So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, Rex Ryan this week said that Baker Mayfield was, quote, overrated as hell. And I'm going to clap back by saying that Baker's clap back was right. He said, if you're not wearing orange and brown, you don't matter. And
which is ironic because for the last 20 years, if you have been wearing orange and brown, you don't matter.
And Baker replied also that Rex Ryan isn't wearing any colors, and there's a fucking reason for that. All right? So, Rex Ryan, stuff it. All right?
You know who else replied? Freddie Kitchens replied. Odell Beckham replied. So,
look, Baker Mayfield, he's the leader of my city and my team. That's all I care about. All right? That's all I care about.
I think the heart of Rex Ryan's comments, he did mention that Baker was being spoken of like an MVP candidate, which may have been a little premature. I think that's fair. He called him a one-read quarterback. According to PFF, Baker Mayfield has left a clean pocket more than any other quarterback in the league. That's a classic inexperienced quarterback move. Normally, it's most displayed by quarterbacks that are a little bit more fleet of foot than Baker Mayfield. So yeah, I mean, there's no shying away from the Browns' offense has greatly underperformed this year so far. Greatly.
Well,
go ahead.
You say the Browns' offense has greatly underperformed this year. That may hold some truth to it in the fact that the expectations were pretty much like the ceiling. I think the expectations for the Browns were the Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs was what people expected from the Browns this season, and that's just not, I don't think, practical right now, at least. Not yet. That's what I'm going to say, Browns fans. Not yet, all right? But I will note that, so talking about defenses, the Browns have played all three of the people they've played. Hold on, where's this at? Total defenses are within the top 10 on statistically for total defensive rank and defensive averages. All right, so that's the Jets, that's the Titans, and that's the Rams. All three of them. So actually the Jets are 11, Titans are 12, and then you have the Rams at 4. So they've not played easy defenses by any means whatsoever, right? The first game, obviously, there was a little bit of that notion of, I think they were, like we talked about, resting on their laurels, saying like, yeah, we got this, and they underprepared for the game, all right? Now let's look at the defenses that the Ravens have played, all right? You've got the Cardinals, the Dolphins, and you've got even the Chiefs, who are ranked 21st. In fact, the Chiefs are only one step above the Arizona Cardinals at 22. All right? So I think that it's also time to kind of slow down, reel back the hype train on Lamar Jackson and his ability to just gunsling it, because I don't think that he's going to be able to live up to the expectations against a Browns defense whose secondary was pretty much limping, but limping still got two turnovers against the Rams and led them to the second least points of any game they've played since Sean McVay was their head coach.
Ooh.
Okay. So the Ravens have not played the easiest defensive schedule. Is that correct? That's correct, I believe. Not the easiest.
I don't know as far as like
sure.
the total schedule, as far as easiest or hardest or anything.
Okay. Well, they have the most yards per game than any other offense in the league. That includes Mahomes, that includes the Rams, even though the Rams played the vaunted Cleveland Browns defense in a small sample size. So I don't understand how you can rationalize to yourself that the Browns haven't underperformed, but that's okay, man, because you're going to see. So the Ravens come into this game with, like, I don't know, probably like the 18th ranked defense in the league. Is that probably appropriate?
Hold on. Let me pull it up. I got so many fucking tabs open here. It's like I'm trying to jerk off. Hold on.
While you're pulling it up, Joey, would you say that your secondary this year has performed better or worse than the last couple years so far?
Worse, for sure.
Do you know what OBJ's stats were the last time he played the Ravens?
Nope.
I'll throw them at you. He had 8 catches, so that's fine. He had 222 yards and 2 touchdowns against the best secondary in the land. So now that they're worse, do you think that he has a chance of having a good game, maybe?
Okay.
The answer is yes.
What did he have the last time that he played the Titans? Or the Rams? Or the Jets?
Dude, gamers get up for big games, Joey. That's too easy.
Oh, like the primetime football game they just played against the Rams?
Yeah.
Where against the offense scored 13 points.
The returning Super Bowl champions against the second best defense in the NFL. Currently, right now, is 4th, right? But just
okay.
Saying.
Who's better, the Rams' number one corner or Marlon Humphrey?
So
I'll take Marlon Humphrey because I don't even Aqib Talib
and Marcus Peters, dude. It's like close. Yeah.
I'll take Marlon Humphrey and Brandon Carr.
So the Ravens, by one metric, are 19th, and by another are 16th. Total defense.
Also, someone has to deliver the ball to Odell Beckham Jr. And to do that, he has to stay off of his ass. And to do that, the offensive line has to block somebody.
So,
who's going to do that?
The Baltimore Ravens defensive line against pass protection, or for pass protection, not for run protection, but for pass protection, are 17th.
That's
the Cleveland Browns.
That's about average.
The Cleveland Browns are 5th.
Based on what, though? What's that based on?
It's that same statistics website you guys sent me earlier today.
Well, here's what I use to determine all this, nerd. All right. Baker Mayfield has been running for his life.
But you just said that he didn't even need to.
Whether it's warranted or not, he is, because he doesn't trust his offensive line. And so he's leaving clean pockets because he's spooked constantly. And I'm pretty sure we all watched the Chiefs game. And I don't have the statistics on pressures or anything like that, but Patrick Mahomes was under a lot of pressure in that game. And that's a really good offense. And it's an offense that doesn't allow you to bring a lot of crazy pressures because they're just going to crush you in 4 wide receiver sets with the fastest humans in the NFL. I expect Baker Mayfield to be running for his life again. This defensive front is better than we expected it to be. Pernell McPhee is having a career renaissance. All right. Judon is having a great game, even though I will say he's been borderline dirty this year. I'm starting to wonder if this is becoming a thing. All right. I have faith in Tim Williams and Tyus Bowser and all of our pass rushers against this 5 turnstiles that the Cleveland Browns call an offensive line this year.
So through the guards, they've been all right. They've been pretty decent. The tackles have been the problem, but what they've been tending to do is they've been pulling the tackles far back and making the edges run the long route on the outside, which is where Baker's been fucking up, is because he keeps backing up out of that and then running out of the pocket that way. If he steps up and stays in, he's fine, and that's what most of the like basic analytics say, right? And
But has he done it yet?
Right,
Or
and
he's
you're
just
right.
leaving the
Right,
pocket.
but I'm saying this is his get right game, guys. He's gonna figure it out against the Baltimore Ravens. All right, guys.
The Ravens defense, notorious get right game in Baltimore.
Look, man, the Baltimore Ravens defense is a
Kyler
shadow
Murray got right.
of itself. Yeah, right. So, like I said, even against the pass, the Ravens defense has been underperformed for sure. So, with the offensive weapons that are there, I think the Browns have a chance. Not even have a chance. They will outscore the Ravens significantly because of the weak secondary of the Baltimore Ravens.
Speaking of offensive weapons,
I was about to say, it looks like he's still listed as questionable, but it looks like Rashard Higgins will probably be back. And if there's anybody that watches the Browns or listens to the podcast or anything, knows that Baker's connection with Rashard Higgins, even though he's technically like third or fourth on the depth chart, can't be overlooked, right? They have chemistry, they have connection. Even in that first game that they played against the Titans, like that first drive, like so many of those passes were to Rashard Higgins, right? And so many of those good connections, those clean looks, those clean connections were with Rashard Higgins. So that's something
Let me emphasize that point.
In week one?
Emphasize that point. Wait, Joey. I have to emphasize that point because Anthony Averett has been the third corner a lot of snaps for the Baltimore Ravens this year. And I'm sorry, listeners. You guys know that I'm not a big numbers guy. I'm not going to force numbers down your throat. But sometimes numbers are so big, they're almost bigger than life. Do you know what quarterback rating Anthony Averett has allowed this year while he's been in the game? I'll tell you. It's 132. So if Cleveland can establish a third threat, either by getting Averett matched up against Jarvis Landry or OBJ by moving people around, or by getting a guy, specifically Higgins, who Mayfield has incredible chemistry with, it is possible that they can create severe matchup problems. Tony Jefferson has been very inconsistent covering the deep his half of the field. And I really think that there is stuff to be had. Like if Joey, if you're wrong, even incrementally about that pass rush, this secondary is beatable. It's big time beatable.
I agree that the secondary is beatable. I will end discussing this half of the game when the Browns are on offense by saying the Browns have shown me basically nothing schematically, play calling wise, or in execution that scares me offensively. With Rashard Higgins or without him. They had Rashard Higgins in week 1. They scored 13 points at home against the Titans.
Didn't he go out in the game though?
Yes.
He didn't finish that game.
Yes.
So
okay.
He looked really good on that first drive.
How many points did they have at halftime? 6?
Well, they scored their first touchdown off of a deep throw to him up the middle of the field. So I don't remember when he went out, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not sure if that's a precise argument you're making, and I get it's your home team, and desperation's a stinky cologne. That's all.
Yeah. The desperate division winner is at home against an offense that hasn't done shit to scare anybody this year.
Exactly.
And then I will finish this side of the ball, like you said, with the Browns on offense and the Ravens on defense.
Side of the ball.
Okay, well then I'll put my cap on it, my personal cap on the fact that the majority of what Baker's been trying to throw lately has been deep balls. And kind of reeling back for a second and to a little bit more sincerity, is that, like you guys talked about, Jarvis and Odell Beckham, even though they are these big wide receivers that run these crazy routes and have these fantastic highlights, they're not really deep guys, right? They're the guys that cut you up the middle in the slants, in that kind of mid-range pass kind of thing. And I think that Baker Mayfield has a lot of confidence in himself and the ability to say, look, I'm going to wait and let this play develop because I can fucking hit that deep target. I can make that highlight. And I think he's too concerned with that, more so over the idea of winning a football game by what his receivers are good at and what he was good at last year, which was the mid-range passes in those kinds of situations. So I think Baker needs to figure that out and get that right, and prioritize winning, and also Freddie Kitchens and Todd Monken need to figure out what the fuck is going on with the offense. Whether it's Baker figuring that out or them changing up their scheme to better utilize those guys like Jarvis and and Odell Beckham. I mean, I think Damian Ratley can be a deep threat because, like I was talking about like two games ago, he's fucking fast, right? But again, maybe Higgins, I don't know. But yeah, they got to figure that out. That's the one jab I'll take at myself.
As a last non-jab to anybody, I think you guys, in sassing each other, have established what the premier matchup in this game may come down to. And Joey brought up Warren Sharp in our last podcast as a guy who really breaks down film and kind of gets into the nuances of the game. Last year, when Baker was playing really well, he played his worst football out of 11 personnel, which is 3 wide receiver sets. This year, the Browns have run a lot of 11 personnel, and it may or may not be contributing to Baker's struggles. Problematic because the Ravens have done their most struggling when teams have spread them out with lots of wide receivers. So the question is, can the Browns find a way to either beat the Ravens playing out of their strengths, which is less defensive backs on the field, or can Baker get comfortable playing in a way that he hasn't historically been comfortable? It's going to be very exciting, and I'm looking forward to the results.
Yeah, the Ravens defense has been very vulnerable in 11 personnel. The problem with the Browns, which they haven't shown a willingness to commit to anything other than 11 personnel this year, even with the offensive struggles, even if they wanted to now without Njoku, that's a pretty tall task to go 12. So that's definitely something that can be exploited. The Ravens in 11 personnel actually gave up like 6.8 yards a carry to the Chiefs rushing the ball. But out of a heavier set, they gave up 3.3. So there's ground to be had in the air and running the football in 11 personnel if the Browns can figure it out. But it seems to be kind of a weakness to weakness matchup, possibly.
We'll see how that develops, and that will be for sure an exciting aspect of this game. But let's pivot to the other situation, which is the Browns.
Pivot.
What's up?
I said pivot?
Yeah. To the Browns defense against the Ravens offense. So I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the Ravens offense has not really faced a premier defense
like the
Cleveland Browns yet. All right. The Cleveland Browns are ranked significantly higher than any of the defenses that the Ravens have played so far by ESPN, by these crazy NerdStat analytics that you guys have sent me this website to, which I just went fucking ham on, by the way.
Biggest mistake in my life.
I was like, numbers? Right. But, so yeah. The Browns pass rush, look, Lamar Jackson, yeah, I get it. He's got some legs, whatever. But Myles Garrett is going to rough that passer so fucking hard that the new name of the penalty is going to be called Myles Garretting the passer. All right? Lamar Jackson is going to get fucking hurt. Myles Garrett is going to crush him. Again, well, between all 4 of them, Olivier Vernon, Myles Garrett, Larry Ogunjobi, and Shelton Richardson. It's going to be hell for him. What do you think?
I don't know if you've been watching this year, but defenses have had a pretty hard time even touching Lamar Jackson even when they get pressure. He's pretty elusive. And when we speak about the Ravens offense, we're not going to talk about if they show that they can do this and that and this and that. We're just going to talk about what they have done. Even though the Browns come in with apparently the best defense since the '85 Bears, even though their only win came against Luke Falk. who was like stocking shelves at the buy low on Wednesday and then playing in Sunday night or Monday night football later that week. Lamar Jackson is the hardest quarterback to defend in the NFL. He tests your discipline as a defensive line, which has been a noted weakness, even if you think, and you've stated that you feel like the Browns have improved that some. All right. Lamar Jackson poses a threat that the Browns have not faced this year in the fantastic pocket quarterbacking of Marcus Mariota and Luke Falk and Trevor Siemian and Jared Goff, who can't even make his own play calls at the line of scrimmage. All right. Lamar Jackson is another degree of difficulty that the Browns haven't seen this year. They really haven't even seen last year, because last year the Ravens were babying Lamar Jackson because Flacco got hurt. So they were forced to throw him in there and came with the crazy run heavy, run all the time offense that they came up with. Hollywood Brown is also something that I don't think can be understated. He allows the Ravens to not run against stacked boxes constantly because you have to respect the deep throw. I think offensively they're as balanced as any team in the league, even though Lamar admittedly has his shortcomings with accuracy still. But he is developing. And at the end of last year, we said, well, if Lamar can still develop, that's a plus. And that just means that the offense gets even better. I think maybe I was a little premature to crown Nick Chubb the best running back in the AFC, because at least statistically, in whatever statistics you want to use, I don't even care. Mark Ingram has been better. I just don't think the Browns have faced the balance that the Ravens pose on offense yet this year. Even with the Rams coming to town, I know the Rams are like the big shit, all right? But since the Super Bowl, the first 3 games of this year, the Rams have looked pretty human down in Carolina against the Browns.
Sure. The Browns haven't faced a balanced team because they haven't faced the Ravens, who ran the ball 69 times a game last year and then have played 3
last year
bad defenses that expected them to run the ball 64 times a game, and then they were able to throw deep because a rookie ran fast past them. I don't know that we should call the Ravens the expected balanced offense of the year. I think that the Rams should be respected as a balanced offense, and that the Cleveland Browns played an incredibly respectable game against actually a team that schematically lines up very similarly to the Ravens, except better at the scheme and maybe worse at a couple of the individual athletic traits, a la Lamar Jackson and the speed of Marquise Brown. But it should not be ignored that Cleveland, starting non-starters on their team, kept Brandon Cooks,
Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks,
like fast guy known for taking the top off, did not take the top off. Like, it doesn't matter if you run a 4-3 versus a 4-5 as long as people are prepared for it. Now, I understand, look, the Ravens running game is really good, and I'm not trying to say the Browns have an advantage, but I think that if you disrespect this defense, especially the game they played last week, severely undermanned, like, they're showing significant improvement, and if they're disciplined, they can give Lamar problems. And what I wrote down is that the safeties need to be very conservative, and they need to make Lamar throw into windows. Look, when everyone gets behind the defense, Lamar will throw an accurate deep ball. But if you have to throw over the linebackers or over a corner and then under a safety, Lamar is hasn't shown any real ability to do it at all, frankly, in my opinion.
The 41-yard pass that sealed the game against the Cardinals.
That wasn't
tight coverage down the right sideline.
The Cardinals.
That was to a guy that had beaten his defender deep. It was a good throw, but
The defender was right on his hip, though. It's not like Lamar was throwing to a wide open guy.
Lamar had 5 yards of sideline to work with, and there was not a safety over the top. Look, it was a good throw. I'm not going to lie to you. It was by far his best throw of the year. And if you want to go individually, he had 2 throws last week where he ran backwards and threw off his back foot, and they should have been picked. One of them was a 4th and 5. One of them was a 3rd and 17. If you want to talk about Baltimore playing Kansas City close, if that play goes any different, you could make the case that Lamar basically lost the game by being a dumbass. So look, we all get it. He's playing better, but I think that you would be ignorant to be too hubristic about your wide receivers versus the Browns secondary.
So,
You're right, guys.
Chad,
you're right. You're right. Baker Mayfield, we should all expect Baker Mayfield to play better than he's played all year. We'll expect Lamar Jackson to play worse than he's played all year. And because the Browns, who've only beat the Jets, and the Ravens, who've only lost to in Kansas City to the Kansas City Chiefs this year, the Ravens are ripe for the picking coming back home in a division game, which I'm sure they're probably going to overlook the Browns. And since the Browns lost by 7 at home to the Rams, they're probably the better football team.
Joey, now that you're busy blowing off steam, what do you honestly think is the Ravens' biggest advantage against this defense, the passing game or the running game? Because I believe it's the running game, because the Browns play 2 linebackers, Mac Wilson and Joe Schobert, who are both really strong in coverage. Another noted stat, Joe Schobert leads the team in tackles, but he also leads the NFL in missed tackles. And so if you're playing 2 linebackers, they have to play the perfect gaps, and they can never miss tackles. So to me, I'm not shitting on your Ravens. Look, I'm going to do that all year. I'm just saying that your best matchup is in the running game as opposed to the passing game. And if they get too caught up in the fancy pants stuff, I think the Browns actually match up better. And you could walk your way from that confidence, which is probably deserved, into a loss if they don't go back to the basics and actually do the stuff that they're best at, which is a running game against this defense.
But they've been doing that. They haven't abandoned the run game this year. They're just passing more than 40% of the time. Like they haven't abandoned the run. The linebackers on the Browns have probably a taller task than they've had against any team the Browns have played this year. From the talent at the tight end position to also preparing for a run game that's probably more formidable than any run game the Browns have faced this year. And somebody still has to account for Lamar Jackson on pass plays.
All right, Justin, who accounts for Lamar Jackson on pass plays, and how do the Browns stop the run?
All right, so I'm going to encompass this all. So first off, the only deep threat that the Browns have to worry about, because you guys have been going for a while, and this is my team, all right?
Sorry.
I've had a Steelers fan defending me. That's how fucking good
It's
the Browns
okay. We're
are,
going to talk about
right?
this game for 4 hours.
As long as it takes for you to recognize. Anyways, so with the corners clearly being able to cover the receivers that the Ravens have, even the backups are starters on the Browns team. The safeties will have every opportunity to assist the linebackers in that situation, right?
That's the last thing you want.
But the Browns' run defense has been significantly better this year than it was last year, the year before. I mean, it's been better than it's been in a while, to be honest with you. I mean, they've had to go against Derrick Henry. They've had to go against Le'Veon Bell. They've had
Mark
to go.
Henry.
Yeah, no Mark Henry. I just
The
like
world's
sexual
strongest
chocolate.
man.
Yeah, right. Right. Now I just blew a blank on the Rams.
Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley. All right, so yeah, right. They've had to go against those guys so far this season and have done pretty well against them, right? And I get it that they have, the Ravens have Mark Ingram, right? I get it that they have Gus Edwards, right? And I get that Lamar Jackson is a running threat. So the Browns will definitely have to shore up their run defense because their defensive backs will have the pass game covered. I'm confident in that, right? So they're going to have to shore up that midfield, that run defense. So, yeah, man.
The problem with that is that the Ravens' pass game does not fall fully on your secondary. The Ravens are going to test your safeties and your linebackers with the tight ends.
You say that
you can do whatever you want to lock up Hollywood Brown, but if he's faster than everybody on your team, like there's going to be opportunities to take shots. You can lock up Willie Snead. Like you're just not going to lock up everybody all game. And if you allocate enough effort to locking up everybody in the pass game, Lamar Jackson is going to make a fool out of your defensive ends in open field and scamper for 8 yards at a time. That's the difficulty in Lamar Jackson, is that locking up the pass game is not enough. He ran for 120 yards against the Cardinals without breaking a sweat.
the Cardinals have the 30th defense in the NFL.
Yeah, they also played the Ravens, the best
30th.
by yardage offense in the league.
Well, okay, that's fair, because then the Dolphins must be 32nd because they played the Ravens.
And they also played the Cowboys, and they also played the Patriots.
And the Chiefs must be 24th because they played the Ravens, right? I mean,
all of this is just
because of
such
Ravens,
small
right?
sample size anyways.
So,
everybody has 3 games.
Right?
You're right. The Browns are obviously superior to everybody that the Ravens have played this year.
All I'm saying is
Lamar Jackson is not faster than everyone on your defense.
Nope.
And everybody will definitely be able to just wrap him up.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see it on Sunday.
Okay,
I don't understand.
That's fine.
I just
Let me ask you another question, Justin.
We are not the Jets, Justin.
Justin, let me ask you another question. Because your team tends to play 2 linebackers and 4 defensive linemen, you'll probably end up having to send those linebackers out into coverage situations. So what would be, in your opinion, the Browns' best strategy to prevent Lamar Jackson from having success running the ball in passing situations?
If I knew that, I'd be coaching in the NFL. I mean, I don't know, man.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I have an answer. I don't
for it.
think the Ravens' offensive line is particularly good, and I think that the Browns' defensive line is really good. I think if you can, and this has so far been proven to be impossible because of the penalties, but if you can have them rush with discipline within a scheme and you can keep Lamar Jackson in a pocket or running backwards, which he will do. He doesn't always break. If he really thinks he's got something, he'll just keep drifting backwards and it'll get out of control. So if you can rush him without getting totally crazy, running around the edge or just breaking your scheme, you can kind of enclose that pocket around him or build like a plow that just moves him backwards. And you have to be a little bit not focused on your stats to do this, but they definitely have the talent to do it. The Ravens' offensive line is not special. A lot of their running success comes because of one excellent offensive lineman, great scheme, and people being afraid of Lamar Jackson. So I think it's possible, but you're not going to do it by spying. It's discipline with your pass rush.
And that's still assuming that Lamar is not going to beat your lineman to the edge. And it's assuming that the most talented player on your defensive line, who's also the most penalized defensive player in the league over the last couple of years, is going to be disciplined enough to maintain lanes. Having a quarterback like Lamar Jackson, which the Ravens have never had before, that's why it's so much fun for me, because we used to play against Cordell Stewart in Pittsburgh, who just kills you every time you think that you have him, right? The thing that Lamar does is the threat of him running has a hand in neutering your pass rush, because those guys have to be lane disciplined. So you're taking away some of the stunts and things like that could leave big gaps in a 4-man rush. I just think Lamar Jackson poses a different threat than any quarterback in the league.
Okay.
The Browns have been an undisciplined football team, and I don't think they've shown anything offensively. Like, we're talking about a 1-2 football team that beat up on the Jets.
So Lamar Jackson will single-handedly carry them to victory with 8 yards per carry.
No, we haven't even
And,
talked about the running game because we all just assume that the Ravens are going to crush the Browns in the running game because there's nothing the Browns have put on tape to show. They're not going to stop Lamar Jackson and Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards in the run game. They haven't faced a dynamic run game except for when they faced the world's strongest man and he demolished them at home.
No, he didn't. He had a single run for 75 yards that was broke on the outside.
And the Browns lost by 30.
Single run, right?
And the Browns lost
well,
by
then
30.
then it steamrolled like at the, halfway to the end of the fourth quarter, right?
Who has better skill position players, the Titans or the Ravens?
So then, that inconsequential. So then they played Le'Veon Bell, right? Then they played Todd Gurley.
They played Le'Veon Bell with Luke Falk with no threat of a passing game.
Right. Then they played Todd Gurley and the Rams and held them to... Actually, they were up to the fourth quarter, and then the Rams eventually scored a touchdown at the very end. And then the Browns had a chance to tie it up, but they missed it, right?
So
like, let's not think for a second. Let's not think for a second that the victory that the Rams had against the Browns was like this blowout that everyone's like saying like, oh yeah, the Browns blew it against the Rams. The Browns didn't blow it against the fucking Rams. The Browns had it 3-6 at halftime, and then again left them within a single point for almost the entire game, right? And then at the end, yes, the Rams scored a touchdown, and at the end, yes, the Browns had a drive all the way to the end of the field, and Baker threw an interception, right? But
which he does,
which he has done, right? But Lamar Jackson hasn't thrown a team good enough to catch a fucking interception, right? With opposition to the Browns, whose secondary, like we said, even the backups have every propensity to make those big plays, right?
Sounds like they're getting their safeties back, by the way. Morgan Burnett and Demarius Randall. Am I getting that right?
Yes, Demarius Randall.
They seem like they're both lined up to play, particularly Demarius Randall.
Yeah, I was about to say. But
just to throw some actual information out there for a minute.
All right, let's move forward. We've been on this for a fucking hot minute, and it's getting less productive.
Let me just. Well, can I say one thing?
Sure.
I think that the way, I think if we're all honest with ourselves, the Ravens are right now the better team. If they play their game, the Browns haven't played their game yet, so it's likely the Ravens will win. To me, despite the fact that Joey is correct, that nobody on the Browns and really nobody in the NFL can contain Lamar Jackson, if you're the Browns, you want him in shotgun. You want him every play deciding, should I run around and make people miss, or should I throw this ball, or whatever. Take the 100 yards rushing. Take it. Because for every 10-yard run, he makes an ill-advised throw or runs backwards 20 yards and throws something stupid. And every time it works, it makes him do it more. So if you're the Browns, let him do it. It's going to look bad a couple drives. It's going to look bad. But the way that the Ravens actually beat the Browns and beat them badly is settling into the fact that if they pound it with the running game and a couple, whatever it's called, where Lamar pretends to hand the ball off and then watches the defensive end.
Read option.
If he's the read option. That's the kind of stuff that's going to kill the Browns. But if they get too caught up in, we're way better, we can blow them out, let's throw a bunch of deep balls. I honestly think this game could get way closer. And all of a sudden, all it takes is one blown Tony Jefferson decision, and there goes OBJ for a 84-yard touchdown. It honestly, even though, Joey, I know you're full of bluster and you're full of excitement right now, and you might be right in a lot of ways, I think that a lot of the things you're saying about the Ravens passing game are actually kind of like what the Browns want. They want the Ravens to think that they can sprint this one out to halftime at 35-0 behind a couple big Lamar Jackson throws. And they would rather that than actually having the Ravens pound it and then do the occasional deep ball once the Browns are so failing at the run that they have to draw everybody in. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they do strategically, but I think the running game is really where the advantage is, and they will grind them to death if they really sell out on it.
The Ravens' ideal offense looks like the first drive of the second half against Kansas City, where they got back to the basics, like Chad said, not trying to be too cute. But the reason we haven't talked about it much is because I think we can all acknowledge when the Ravens are running the ball, they have the upper hand on the Browns defense.
So the Ravens' strength is clearly the run game, without question.
Absolutely.
But the Browns' defense has been strong against the run. Now, I'm not saying that the Browns are going to... You had your chance.
Okay.
Right? I'm not saying that the Browns are going to shut the Ravens out to only 50 yards this whole game. That's not what I'm saying. But the Browns have significantly improved their defense against the run game and have done well against three very dynamic runners, or, rushers, running backs, right? And the lack of competency for deep passes, in my opinion, that mid-short field is where the Browns have to shore themselves up to stay competent. So, and, again, I'll close out with saying that the Browns have faced the Rams, who are the third-ranked defense right now, the Titans, who are the sixth-ranked defense right now, which, again, it all fell apart in the second half of the fourth quarter, right? I get it. And the Jets, who are not ranked as well right now, but I think at that time, even in game one and through like a portion of game two, the Jets defense, like they have a lot of good players on there, right? And again, with
just not against the Browns.
The Ravens offense has been blown significantly out of proportion because they've played the Dolphins, the Cardinals, and again, the Chiefs defense, right? All of them ranked in like the bottom fifth of the NFL. So that's my closing statement.
Okay. The not so great Jets defense that you scored 20 points on didn't
23.
even have CJ Mosley or Quinnen Williams.
Hey, man.
Here's a more important
Did you say your closing
question.
statement or not? It was a closing statement for a closing statement.
Here's my closing statement.
All right.
The Browns haven't shown anything on offense to make anybody think that they're going to right the ship. And it doesn't matter who they've played. All right? The Browns have scored 59 points total this year. The Ravens scored 59 points in week 1. The Browns' only win this year was against a third-string quarterback and a defense that had 2 of its 3 best players out. The Ravens are not that. The Ravens' only loss this year was against the 1A or 1B favorite to win the AFC in their house in a home opener by 5 points in a game where they missed 3 2-point conversions.
It's crucial to me that Justin has the last word in this conversation. So my final thought
I rest my case.
My question will be for Justin. Justin, I actually
You can ask me some other crazy question
question
about what type of coverage they have to run in order to stop Lamar Jackson on the outside. Like, I don't fucking know, man.
This is going to be about your heart. This is going to be about your heart. I don't know how long it's been since at any moment in any season the Browns have been in first place in the AFC North. Have you prepared any statements for Tuesday when the Browns might be in first place in the AFC North? Are you prepared for that emotionally?
Think along the lines of Ryan Fitzpatrick in the first couple games. I don't remember what game it was against who was it? When he was playing for the Bucs last season. All right. All blinged out in Deshaun Watson's gear. I'm gonna have to go to the pawn shop. That's all I gotta say.
Go to the Halloween store. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You're gonna flash a little chest hair.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to grow some first, but I'll get there.
So
I'll
who
send
are
you
we
some
picking?
in the mail.
Should we end this with our actual picks?
I think ours are clear. Chad, who are you picking?
I'm picking the Ravens. I think that Harbaugh is too good of a coach to let the team let their success get to their heads. I think they'll play a Ravens game, and I think that if they match a power running game with the occasional shot downfield, it will nullify. I won't say advantages, but I would say it will nullify the ability of the Browns secondary to match up with the Ravens offense. So I predict Ravens victory, but I will be cheering for the Browns.
All right.
When you're on top, everybody's gunning for you. So
I know the feeling.
it would also be the most Browns thing ever. For the first time in like forever, they've been leading the division and still not have a winning record.
Yeah, that would be. All right, let's we took a long time on that. Holy
Dude, that
Kind of got away from us there.
no, that was what this whole thing is all about. Two teams vying for the division lead, passionate debate, and chicanery. Loved it. I enjoyed it, even though I couldn't be really a part of it, except, tertiarily, if that's a word, maybe.
All right, let's talk about the polls, I guess, for last week. So, Joe, do you have the poll results? Because I do not have those pulled up.
Sure do. Give me just a moment here. All right. AFC North Defensive Player of the Week. Lots of votes. 16 votes so far. The poll closes tomorrow, I think at noon. Minkah Fitzpatrick has the edge over one TJ Carey, 56% to 44%. So, hell of a debut by Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Didn't get a great grade from Pro Football Focus. He missed some assignments. Oh, come on, Pro Football Focus. He didn't know the freaking defense. Of course he doesn't.
Right.
Jesus Christmas. You guys are so nerdy. You're so nerdy, Pro Football Focus.
If
Watch
we've
the
learned
game.
anything about Troy Polamalu, it's not about statistics. It's about the memorable plays, the memories, the moments.
Do not steal my whole point before we even have to. I will slap you in the face across the internet. Do not do that. Do not do that. We will talk about Troy Polamalu in one calendar year minus a few months when he is inducted into the Hall of Fame as a first balloter. Okay?
Rightfully so.
Yeah, we all know that's going to happen, and none of us even don't want it to happen because he was a joy. He was a joy. Right now we're talking about Minkah, deserved Defensive Player of the Week, and the way the Steelers' offensive is playing, probably it's going to be very important that we get some Defensive Player of the Week nominees this year.
What was the percentages?
94
Yeah, it was 56 to 44.
numbers. Must be dyslexic or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about offensive?
And AFC North Offensive Player of the Week, also known as Ravens Offensive Player Invitational. Mark Ingram beat Nick Chubb 90 to 10.
It should be noted
Percent,
that my
not
nominee
votes.
was not included in the poll, even though he was the quarterback with the highest QBR of the week. So not even included in the poll. So I mean, this sort of bias is like, I mean, it's unconscionable. And I think really that week 3 Offensive Player of the Week, I'm striking it at asterisk.
All right, let's also wrap up with what we typically do on our preview days, but like I said, we're running pretty late. But on our pick'em day, or on our preview days, we talk about our pick'ems a little bit, right? So we talk about 2 specific picks in our pick'ems. The first one that we talk about is what we like to call our mistress, right? So you got your home team, right? I got the Browns, Joey's got the Ravens, and Chad regrettably has the Steelers. We feel for him. One day he'll get right. But you always have that team on the side, or at least we always have that team on the side when you're doing your picks. Like, man, I fucking like that team. I like that pick, and I'm excited to see how that one turns out. So that's going to be our mistress for the week. So do you guys have one picked for the week?
Which one are we doing? The mistress?
Yep.
Yeah, I can do a game. Am I first?
I mean, I guess so, yeah.
I'll go first because neither of you guys are going to pick this game unless you're wackadoo like me. I'm taking the Jaguars this week. They got Gardner Minshew. He's got some swag. He's got some strut. He's confident. They're going into Denver, who's supposed to have a good defense. They hired the Bears defensive coordinator. He's from off to next word up from awesome. And so far they've stunk, but they're playing in Denver. I think this is going to be a mess of a game. I think it's going to be wacky. I think it's going to be crazy. I think it's just what Gardner Minshew wants. And I'm actually a little bit excited about it because it's kind of two not great teams just in a big old mess. And I kind of am excited about Gardner Minshew too. So the Jaguars are my kind of team to pay attention to this week besides the Steelers.
So, you said unless you're a little cuckoo or whatever, and I guess I must be. But I'm all in on Minshew Mania. All right, I think it's awesome. And I'm excited to hopefully have Jalen Ramsey get his head right with the team so we can kind of have a revival of the Jaguars that we had a year and a half ago, right? Because that was exciting, I think, because it was a fresh new face in the competition of the AFC, right? Because you had the typical Steelers, the typical Patriots, boring, right? The typical Falcons at the time, wrong conference. But you had like these typical teams, I guess even across the NFC, like typical teams that you always see. But then you had the Jags kind of just sneak their way in there, and you're like, oh, damn, the Jags, which made things exciting and fun. So I'm all in on Minshew Mania. I think it's going to be a awesome game. I'm excited to see the Jacksonville Jaguars be successful through the rest of the season. And that's right, I'm jagging off.
So I'm going to clean this up a little bit in a second for everybody. We're going to have an impromptu break the news to Justin. However, we're all going to be jagging off because I also picked the Jaguars this week, and I love Gardner Minshew. I do have a stat on the Broncos with Vic Fangio, defensive mind extraordinaire. The Broncos have no sacks and no takeaways on defense this year through 3 games. None.
That's his genius.
He's setting them up.
So maybe Rex Ryan will have some colors soon.
No.
However, Justin's yearning for the Jaguars of old may not be in the cards. Since Monday, Jalen Ramsey has had the flu. He's missed practice for a sore back, and he has now left the team to fly to Nashville to attend the birth of his second child. He has also said in a tweet that his trade request stands because once two sides lose respect for each other, then there's no coming back from it. So I think he'll play. It seems like, he played last week against Mr. Minshew, and it seems that he's got the professional pride of he wants to be out there and playing. But things are getting weird down there in Jacksonville.
So who leaves first? Doug Marrone or Jalen Ramsey?
Jalen Ramsey. Players have no power in the NFL. Melvin Gordon reported to the team this week with no new contract. The players have no power.
Oof. Dang. That's harsh. Harsh.
But jagging off? Gardner
Jagging
Minshew?
off? Yeah, that's right. Gardner Minshew. All right, so let's go on to our other pick that we do every pick'em week, which is your heartbreak pick. This is the pick that when you look at, you're just like, man, I really don't know. I don't feel good about this one, but I'm going to close my eyes and click the button, man, because I guess this is what's going to happen, man. I don't know. I'm not feeling good about this, but I'm gonna pick it anyways. What you guys got?
I'll lead this one off. I've got the Bears at home against the Vikings. I just don't know what either of these teams are. The Bears lost to open the season at home to the Packers, but the defense looked fine, but the offense looked like doo-doo. They waxed the Redskins in week 3, but they're the Redskins. I'm not even sure if the Bears defense is as good as it was last year, or if they've just played some sputtering offenses. And the Vikings seem to win when Kirk Cousins only throws like 10 passes. But Dalvin Cook has had a resurgence, and I think their defense is really good too, but I don't know. So this could be like a 5-3 football game. And I'm on the Bears because they're at home and they're going to be wearing some tight uniforms on Sunday. But
those uniforms are... I don't really get into the uniform stuff much. I love those uniforms.
Aren't they so
socks,
fly?
Striped helmet. Are those old? Is that like an old uniform, or is that like new? Flinging out some new design shit.
I don't know. I guess maybe it's like a throw.
Dude,
I'll
look
text
it
you,
up.
Justin.
They're really cool. They're
I've got
really
some fantastic pictures.
Ooh, what is that? I like that.
Right?
They
Dang.
got like 3 stripes vertical down the helmet. They've got the horizontal striped high sock situation going on.
This is supposed to be a throwback to 1936.
Oh man,
is what what the internet
glory
is
days.
saying.
Right in the heart of the Depression. 6 people watched that.
Right. You know, I will say that actually I really like the Bears uniforms as a whole. I don't know, their scheme just works really well. Well, I don't know, not to get into fucking uniforms too much, but like their color rush I think is like really nice looking. I don't know. I like the Bears uniforms. But yeah, man, those stripes, man, they look good. I will say, though, that I picked the Vikings in that game. I don't know, man. I guess I'm hanging on to the possibility that Kirk Cousins could maybe potentially be better than Case Keenum. I was actually talking to my wife about it earlier today because we talk football now. And I was talking about, like, damn, what a world we live in where the Vikings might be biting their nails and saying, damn, I wish we had Case Keenum back. You know?
Yeah, Kirk Cousins... And I'm not sure. I know in his time with the Redskins, he never beat a team with a winning record. And I think that might still stand. He's never beaten a team that had a winning record the day that he played that team.
Yeah.
Ever. And the Bears are 2-1. So.
Ooh, that's good for gambling. I also took the Vikings, but I do like your pick, Joey. I just think that the Chicago's offense has been like, what's the opposite of dynamic? And then take it down like a few more notches. They're like a total joke. Like they stink. They can't do anything. Trubisky isn't even running well. They're like in a super funk. So I don't know. Dalvin Cook, even against a good D, can probably run one 80-yard touchdown, at least this year. That's what seems like what he's doing. Yeah. It's a good pick, though. It's like a lot like my pick, except with better teams and a game you'd rather watch.
So,
and
I was gonna do my pick before you spoil.
Lead on.
So,
really,
that'll
good
leave the
segue,
cliffhanger of who Chad's gonna pick. But I typically, what'd you say?
He said you blew a really good segue for him.
Oh damn! Go for it. Then go ahead.
No,
I like it. So, anyways, I try not to pick like unexciting and boring games whenever I do like the heartbreak. I feel like we're picking the same one. I really do. But man, this one was just such a like I said, a heartbreak for me. So I picked the Giants and Redskins. Is that what you picked?
No.
Oh, it's not. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. So like I said, when I do my heartbreak, I try to pick games that are going to be a little bit exciting, but the Giants and Redskins seems like it's going to be just fucking lame. All right, look, It's like 80-20 on the Giants, but I think people are just living off of the hype of Daniel Jones last game. I don't know. Maybe we'll see what he has to offer. I also thought the Redskins were better this year than what they would be, because last year they kind of had some pizzazz to them, right? They had some pickup to them. They weren't doing too bad, right? And I thought that maybe they would improve, but they definitely seem like they regressed. And it seems like at this point the Giants have every bit to beat the Redskins. But the Redskins also are, in my opinion, on paper, seem like they should be a better team. So I don't know. I did end up picking the Redskins in this one, though, because I don't know. I just Saquon Barkley's still hurt, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't believe in Daniel Jones just yet. I'm not the person to just jump on the hype train. I've done it for the last 20 or whatever fucking years for the Browns. So yeah, I've seen
you
that
just did it for 45 minutes straight.
I've seen that ship
minutes ago.
sail and sink way too quickly. So I'm not jumping on it just quite yet.
It's a good pick. I normally, to pick my game of this category, look at all the games I picked, and I look at the games that I'm the least confident in my choice. And this week, that is the game. But I didn't choose it. But I agree that when I look at that game, I just I don't know. The Giants beat a team that's bad, but they still shouldn't have won. And the Redskins played pretty competitively for a couple weeks, made me believe in them, and then they got blown out. So they obviously stink, and they're obviously bad, plus they're inconsistent. So I have no idea what's going to happen. Either team could blow either team out. That's how much I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah. Joey, who'd you pick in this one?
I picked the Giants. I
Me
don't
too.
have faith in the Redskins, and I'm on the Danny Dimes train. Let's go.
Yeah, dude, everybody was so mean to him. I think that's basically why I picked the Giants. Let's get this kid a 2-game winning streak, and let's get him some nice Twitter mentions, because all that's ever happened to him is he got famous, and then the whole world made fun of him.
I also picked up Saquon Barkley's backup in fantasy because I'm 0-3 and I'm getting a little desperate.
Yeah, you should whisper about that, because that's not great.
Yeah.
But my running backs,
Yeah, your running backs are really good. But
that's Christian McCaffrey and the number 1 running back and the best rushing offense in the NFL, Mark Ingram.
Well,
Look up the DR.
If any of our listeners manage to listen to you guys run your mouths about your 2 crap teams for 45 minutes, they're definitely done now that they're hearing about your fantasy team. So I guess I'll tell them about my
go
game,
ahead.
which no one is going to watch. I picked the Falcons and the Titans.
Ugh.
Because normally for this game, I pick the team that I'm the least confident in. But I actually took Atlanta, and I'm really confident they'll win. But that's why I'm pretty sure they might lose. Because Atlanta just knows how to blow it. Now, they normally do that in non-home, but they're so good
Or the
at
Super
blowing
Bowl.
that harsh.
Yeah.
I think the Titans are the worst. I just do. I think they're so terrible. But Atlanta just manages to lose. They're almost gifted at it. And so for me, I picked Atlanta, and I knew I just had to, but I just feel like they're going to screw it up for me. And if I bet money, this would be the game that I'd be looking at, being like, this is going to ruin my whole week. This is the one that's going to do it, because I know I have to put all the money on it because they have to win. And then they just find a way to screw it up.
Yeah, when I was picking this game, I can say that there are 2 reasons why I picked the way I picked. So first off, whenever I pick for Atlanta, I always pick based on the other team's defensive line. And it served me really well last year, so hopefully it'll continue to serve me well this year. So I picked Atlanta because of that. I'm not super impressed by Tennessee's defensive line. The second reason why I picked Atlanta and moved on is because I will pick against Tennessee the entire rest of this year. They will not win a single game for the rest of the year if I have anything to say about it. So,
is that what you want?
Yes.
You want their only win to be a 30-point victory over your team?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's just like I said, man, we can make an excuse for that one, right? We can say, look, all right, we just weren't in the right mindset. We were just too hyped about ourselves. We just didn't get it right.
But every time they lose, that excuse looks stupid. More stupid. Stupider?
Yeah,
That's
well, you
probably
look
right.
stupider, all right? So, Mr. Stupid.
What if the season's over and the battle for the number 2 pick, because I think we all agree the Dolphins are going to get the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Between theirs and the Steelers, right?
Is
Right?
Between the Titans, whose only win is against the Browns, and the Browns, whose only win is against Luke Falk and the New York Jets.
That's a tall ask, but it's comedic.
It's getting thick. You could cut the tension with a knife.
Well, it's pretty unlikely.
Joey,
Still mathematically possible.
what did you pick for this Atlanta, Tennessee?
I picked Atlanta. I don't just because Tennessee's doo-doo.
Yeah.
Delaney Walker talked this week about guys in the locker room not caring. And when a veteran goes to the media with something like that, it typically indicates a pretty big problem. However, I also invested in the Falcons, and so that pretty much means the Titans are going to win.
Yeah.
Falcons -4, baby. Let's do it.
-4.
When I saw that Delaney Walker thing, they're in Atlanta. When I saw the Delaney Walker thing, I was like,
Hammer
sign me
that
up.
shit. Yeah. Yeah.
Which means I think I've bet on the Falcons 3 out of the 4 weeks this year, and I haven't won yet. So this is the week. I'm due.
Yeah.
Hey, they say the second mortgage is the best mortgage.
Mortgages are like weddings.
All right, guys. I think that wraps up an exhausting yet electric episode of the AFC Northcast. Unless you guys have anything else to throw in. Kitchen sink,
This is a great week. 2 AFC North matchups in 1 week. Bitter hatred, jovial banter, all stewed around together. Craft beer, non-craft beer. Bourbon is always craft. Beauteous. Love it. Love you guys.
Awesome. It was a good episode, guys. I think we had fun. We had a little bit of interaction at the beginning, but we were a little bit too knee-deep in our own shit. Yeah, guys, we're always going to be live on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know it's Friday. Get off our case, all right? But Tuesdays and Thursdays is typically when we're going to be live at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook Live. So if you're one of those people that listens to the podcast on your favorite podcast application, thank you for doing so. Click 5 stars, rate, thumbs up, subscribe, all that stuff. But also, come check us out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, guys. Interact with us live. Talk with us. Let us know what you think, how you feel, if you think our picks are stupid. And then we'll let you know that you're stupid. So, there you go. We're going to have the polls up as far as who you think is going to win between Ravens-Browns. There's obviously only one choice, and that's begins with a B.
Obviously.
Begins with a B, if that's ambiguous enough.
Baltimore.
And the other choice of the Ravens and the Bengals, which also begins with a B, only one obvious choice. Look, let's manifest it into existence that the Steelers go 0-4. All right, guys? Let's make it happen. But we'll put those polls up. We invite you to vote in those like you guys have been. Keep voting in those. Comment on them. Let us know how you feel, all that stuff. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. The Twitter, as the kids use these days. So let us know how you feel. Let us know what you think. In the meantime, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for listening to the podcast. This was a long one. Thanks for sticking through it if you're here for it. And Joey?
The Browns have the most average yards to go on 3rd down in the NFL.
Well, that's not. Never mind. Well, let's never mind. I don't want to make this episode another 45 minutes longer. So, yeah. Thanks, everybody, for showing up. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. And thanks for coming next week on Tuesday, where we discuss how depressed everyone else on this podcast will be. So,
somewhere between 1 and 2 men will cry on Tuesday.
Go ahead, prop bet for Vegas. Throw it in there. All right, guys. Take it easy. Later.
Later.